Good afternoon, welcome to NMS. An interesting question that a lot of people ask me is, if I have a cheat meal, is that going to affect my fat loss? And if I have a lot of carbohydrates in that cheat meal, is that going to affect fat loss because of the high insulin levels? And the answer to that question really is dependent on your diet leading up to that. Now, let's say, for example, you're in a calorie deficit and you're trying to lose weight and you have a refeed meal or a cheat meal, whatever you want to call it, and you haven't had a lot of carbohydrates during the week because obviously you've cut back on your carbohydrates when you've cut back on your total calories. So your glycogen stores are quite low at this point. When you start eating carbohydrates again, those carbohydrates are going to start to fill those glycogen stores. So it's actually very unlikely that you're going to put on much body fat, if any at all, because of those extra calories. Because realistically, during the week, you've been low calorie, you've got low glycogen stores, and those carbohydrates are going to contribute to that more than they are going to potentially increase your fat storage at the time. But there's a couple of factors in this, okay? First of all, how big is the refeed that you're having, okay? And how low would your glycogen stores be? Now, you're obviously not going to know how much glycogen you got stored in the muscle. But if you eat a meal that's quite large and it has a huge amount of carbohydrates, maybe 200 grams, 300 grams of carbohydrates. I've seen people do some huge meals thinking, oh, it's a refeed, so I can do lots. And you've been obviously in a moderate sort of deficit during the week. It's quite likely that because of the size of that refeed or refeed day even, you're going to start to get more fat storage, especially near the end of the day, and that's going to affect your overall results. So when you do a refeed meal, the factors you got to keep in mind is, okay, first of all, there's a psychology to this, okay? And second of all, I'm going to go and eat a little bit more carbohydrates so I can get some glycogen stores, and then my next 2 days of training, 3 days of training will improve, especially that first day. After you've had that refeed meal, you'll feel a lot better. But you've also got to keep in mind that your total calories for the week has to be less than roughly what your maintenance is. Otherwise, overall, you're not really losing. Even if you're filling up your glycogen stores, you're probably not losing, because now you've got full glycogen stores and then more calories. And so you probably put on enough fat from those meals, okay, over the next couple of days, that you've affected your whole week of dieting. And I've seen this happen with a lot of guys over the years. Guys that I've worked with, I've, mistakenly said, yeah, have a cheat meal. And they'll go and have a cheat meal that's like 4, double Whoppers or something ridiculous from Burger King, in Australia, Hungry Jack's. And they put on all this weight. They put on about 3 or 4 kilos on that day. And then the following day, and the following days after that, they're not really down to where they started before they had that cheat meal. So they don't end up losing any weight. In fact, sometimes they put on so much weight from those cheat meals that they actually start going backwards over time. So your cheat meal or refeed meal, the size of it's important, and the sort of deficit that you're in during the week is important. So you want to be in a reasonable deficit that when you come to that refeed meal or cheat meal, whichever you want to call it, that you don't have that many calories that you're actually affecting your full weight loss for the week. So I hope that helps you guys to understand, what refeed meals are supposed to be about. It's more of a psychology thing. It's like, cool, I'm just relaxing. I'm going to have a meal that I'm not worried about. And then I go back to my normal sort of diet in cutting for whatever I'm cutting for. So I hope that does help. Like, comment, share, follow me, subscribe. Okay, these videos are here for you so you can understand exactly how your body might react to certain situations. Have a good afternoon, and I will speak to you in the next video.